بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه الطاهرين ما دام ما في السماوات والأرضين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. كيف حالكم؟ ما شاء الله. Everybody okay today? Good. It's like different being in this class. I'm used to seeing different faces here, so I need to get used to seeing all of you in this class. Now, tamam. Inshallah, today we'll start very quickly. But before we start, two thoughts came to mind, and when we speak about what can be understood as constructive criticism, we always level that constructive criticism at ourselves and not to others. But the principle at the opportune time is important to expound. Aisha radiallahu anha talked about the etiquette, and Surah Hujurat by and large is about etiquette with the leadership. And etiquette is everything in life. Our teachers used to teach us a particular etiquette in terms of conversing. So this is when you converse at night, because at night your voice goes further. At night when you talk, you may be talking at the same frequency, what do they call it? Volume. But you're talking in the day, but at night your voice just carries further. So when you talk at night, in terms of etiquette, must be lower. Now, and when you talk in the day, very particularly, you need to establish what company you're talking. You might be saying something relating to the manager, and the manager is standing behind you. So in the day, at night you must talk softer. In the day you must know where to talk, how to talk, and what to talk. And then Aisha radiallahu anha says that whenever you talk in a majlis, in a gathering, that your voice should reach the last person in the gathering and not go beyond that. That's the etiquette. It's a bit of a challenge in our masajid because we have multiple spaces and we have one sound system. So maybe innovatively, if you think going forward, if you can have like a sound system that is almost like confined only to that particular area. And I think it's fairly easy to do, because our masajid, alhamdulillah, and many masjid, some masjids there's nothing happening. In other masjids like this masjid, you have multiple things happening at multiple times. Can it happen? That's what the masjid is for. You must have a nikah, you must have a dars, you must have this and that other. But if we're innovative enough, we can actually think how everything can work nicely together. Because it's just very difficult to, particularly when Quran is being recited and salawat, you can't really concentrate because your heart goes to the Quran and salawat. If it's a bit louder, that type of thing. Important. So that's the first message I thought to share today. So just for us in our personal capacity, and when we have functions, to ensure that the etiquette which Aisha radiallahu anha spoke about, that the voice must reach the last person and no further than, and that's a nice etiquette. Then I saw here, when I'm sitting here, I saw this glass here, this holder here, it says, "You are amazing, remember that." So nowadays I look around and I see a lot of these things, and if you sometimes, and it's not a good thing, as you see a lot of people's status, you are amazing. So a lot of you are telling yourself that you are amazing, mashallah. So I'm glad to be meeting with all the amazing people here today. Our ulama speak about this as well. Is it a good thing to tell yourself you are amazing? I read in the Hikam of Ibn Ata'illah that yes, he acknowledges that there is benefit and there's a difference of opinion amongst the scholars. Psychologically, what is the best thing for you to be? To be positive about yourself or to be critical about yourself? When they take a measure, and now you must check this out, when they take a measure, they say it's good to be positive about yourself. Power perceived is power achieved, all of those positive things. But in terms of their understanding of the human makeup, they say you'll get more out of yourself when you are critical about yourself. So I'm amazing is positive, is a good thing, mashallah, as long as you're not like, I'm no good, and and then you go down into the doldrums like that, and it just goes down and down and down. Rather say I'm amazing. But if you compare I'm amazing to an attitude where you are very critical about yourself, like for example, let's say, look, I'm a good student, man, I'm amazing, I study enough. But you say, look, I'm not that a good student, I need to study more. What's going to happen? When you're more critical about yourself, you see you grow more. That's our ulama's analysis. And in today's time, I think there's an imbalance, man. Because no matter what you do, you catch on all the nonsense. You go into a slum where you stayed for about the past month. When you wake up from there, then I'm amazing. And I'm the next best thing after peanut butter or whatever the case may be. Yeah. So, together with us being amazing, sisters, we must also be a bit critical about ourselves. And some of the ulama go to the extent, they say that contentment with yourself has only led to vice. And discontent with yourself, in other words, you're always questioning yourself. Look, I can do a bit, not to the way that you pull yourself down, but look, I can do a bit better. I did my best, but I can do a bit better. Look, I can improve this, I can improve that. That type of a critical attitude, they say, only leads to further progression. So, it's a good thing. And please don't get me wrong, positivity, it's a very good thing. But at the same time also, open yourself up to another approach to sort of like, progression, and that is when you are critical. And I tell you, the ulama differ, our ulama differ, and they've written books about it in terms of, and they've weighed it, they did the studies, and many ulama feel that the more critical you are about yourself, as opposed to just having an overwhelmingly positive attitude about yourself, the more critical you are, actually the more you grow. Wallahu a'lam, right? And Allah knows best. Khair. So with those two thoughts behind us, inshallah, we're going to continue with Surah Al-Hujurat. And if my memory serves me correctly, we're starting from verse number 5, is it? Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu in ja'akum fasikum binaba'in fatabayyanu an tusibu qawman bijahalatin fatusbihu ala ma fa'altum nadimin. Okay, so this is a very important verse for us. And remember, in terms of what is the theme of Surah Al-Hujurat? Community building, right? So we want to do those things which are going to build the community and not destroy the community, right? Now, one important part of that is how do we deal in our modern nomenclature? What is the main source of information for us? Main source of information for us is what? Media. Would you agree? In all of its forms. That's the source of information. Okay? So now what happens is, if that information relates to the Muslim community, right? It can, if it's incorrect information, right, and we just accept that incorrect information, it's going to compromise the unity. So whenever there's information regarding the Muslim community, what should we do first? We should first verify. That's basically the message is about. So it teaches us also, and we're going to discuss a few other verses, it teaches us how to handle information. How to handle information. Tamam? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to you and me, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. Now this is a part which we don't have to translate, you know the meaning, right? Ya ayyuha, there are three words there. It says, O you who. Alladhina is the plural of the word alladhi, the one who. So alladhina, those who. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. Oh, you believe. And very importantly, Allah addresses us here because there's a link between your belief and your actions on the other hand. So if you believe in Allah, then in terms of your approach to information about the Muslim community, you should have the following approach. You with me? Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. If you believe, and then this is the way you deal with information. Everybody with me? Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. So what does Allah say? In. The word in is what we refer to as in shartiyah. Right? So now in shartiyah means that we're going to have two sentences following. In means if. In means if. So I don't know if I maybe mentioned before. If you visit me, I'll give you a cup of tea. So what happens now? In, you're going to have two complete sentences following. The first sentence is called the shart, the condition. And the second sentence is called jawab. Jawab means the answer to the condition. So in my sentence, if you come to visit me, that's the condition. And the answer to the condition is, I'll give you a cup of tea. You're with me? So when you see in, jumla shartiyya means that there are two sentences. After in, you will have two sentences following. So let me put that down. Let me put that down quickly, so you can afterwards you can look at it. So when you have in, right? So in Arabic language, what do we have? You have a word, then you have a construct, then you have a sentence. Do you agree with me? So for example, Muhammadun. What is Muhammad? A word, right? So, and then I have a construct. Muhammad al-alimu. Muhammad the scholar. So it's two words, but it's not yet a sentence. Muhammad al-alimu waqifun. Muhammad the scholar is standing. So I have a complete sentence. So you have a word, you have a construct, and you have a sentence. Now what happens is when you see the word in, not only do you have a sentence, but you have two sentences. You follow the train of thought? So now we have two sentences. So I'm going to say jumlatani. You familiar with that? The ani? Jumlatani, ani means two sentences. And those two sentences is made up of what we refer to in Arabic as the shart, the condition. And I don't know if you're familiar, you know, when you go to traditionally in Cape Town we had, you know, on the Mawlid, and then you have different groups reading. So the one reads and the other one responds. So they call it jawab. Now jawab actually jawab originally is jawab. Jawab means answer. So the condition and the answer. So here Allah, in this sentence, Allah gives us a condition if what happens. Can we go on now? Okay. So my ideal is that you listen more and write less. Writing you must do after class. When you consolidate the lesson, when you regurgitate the lesson, you can make notes here and there quickly just to as to remember. And the scholars who differ, you know, they say al-ilmu saydun wal kitabatu qaydun. Knowledge is the prey, and kitaba, you know, writing it down is actually when you capture the prey, when you ensnare the prey. So that's all good. Just for this week, try it out, which means you're going to have to work harder, which means you listen attentively in class, but if you're going to go by Wednesday, that class is just a fun memory. Like it was nice and benefited so much. What did you learn? You don't know. But what happens is if you come to class, right, this evening or for the latest tomorrow evening, you sit and you consolidate the lesson. You run through and you regurgitate the lesson, right? And then it's going to stay with you. And that's when you make out your notes and so forth. So you have like a separate notebook, you're making your notes as you go along. And that's where learning takes place. Myself, I'm imparting, so honestly, I'm learning all of the time. I prep, after class I go back, sometimes I read the same lesson because, you know, one or two things aren't very clear to me. So I'm learning all of the time, but my primary concern is what benefit are you taking, you know, because you see these, ultimately, you know, what we learn here must inform our lives. And I was thinking about it in the week and I was quite concerned, you know, do we have a measure in terms of our class that from week to week, am I going forward? You know, what am I? So these are type verses that, you know, this must inform my practice. I must start conducting myself in this particular way, right? The challenge you're going to become is that after a short while, if you start practicing upon this, right, you're going to become like a Superman. No, honestly, it's a challenge because you become very different. You think differently. The analogy that you use with people is differently. Some people you won't sink in with them because what you're saying, what they're saying is completely different. Like, let's say one thing, you develop a good thought, but now you're speaking with a person who doesn't have that degree of good thought. So they're always questioning the next person. You can't have a conversation with such type person. That's the only challenge that I find that you might be faced with. If if you're developing, you find, unfortunately, the real dynamic is that you just grow beyond certain people, unfortunately, right? You just grow beyond certain people, that's the unfortunate thing. But the important thing for me is, let's focus, and week to week, how do I grow? Make a note then, what has changed in my life? Okay, since learning Surah Hujurat, I'm being concerned about the community building, right? I've employed the following principle. What is the following principle? The following principle relates to how I engage with information. Any information relating to the Muslim community. Okay, so you receive information about, let's for example say something current and relevant about the Hajj quotas. right? About the role of Saud in the Hajj quotas, right? Or whatever other debacle may be set the Muslim community, that is information. When you receive that information, what do? Let's visit Surah Hujurat, and Allah now instructs you, oh, you believe, what must you do? And that must be our approach going forward. Okay? So Allah says, in ja'akum. So now we're going to do the first part of the sentence, of the two sentences. And the first part is called the shart. It's called the shart. What does Allah say? Ja'akum. Ja'a. So look at that verb there. Ja'a. How does that verb look? Do you recognize the verb? Normally when you think about a verb, right? When you think about a verb, then normally you think about fa'ala, isn't it? Fa'ala. And so what's on ja'a doesn't really fit, does it? Because it has a weak letter. So it's the same thing, but it's structured differently. Ja'a for now means to come. Ja'a, ye came. In ja'akum. So the word after ja'a is kum, which is what we refer to as a pronoun. Dhamir, it's a pronoun. Now the moment a pronoun is attached to the verb, it becomes the done upon. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, oh you believe, in if ja'a comes kum to you. Is everybody following? And importantly, you will notice that I want you to understand the meaning of the verses and not necessarily the translation. That's why I'm breaking the Arabic words down. Oh, you believe, in if ja'a comes to you. Who comes to you? Fasiqun. 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 Now, can we figure out the word fasiqun? It's on the scale of fa'ilun. Okay? Now remember last week we spoke about this. If you cancel out the extra letters, and then you're going to be sitting with the root letters of fa, alif, sin, qaf. What is the extra letter? Alif. So what are the root letters? Fa, sin, qaf. And if you have three letters, you can go to the dictionary. Fasaqa. Fasiq means a sinner. Fasiq on the scale of fa'il. Like kataba means to write. Katib, the one who writes. Fa'ala means to do. Fa'il means the doer. Fasaqa means to sin. Fasiq, a sinner. So what does Allah say? Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. Oh, you believe, in if ja'akum comes to you. Who comes to you? Fasiqun, a sinner. Now what does he come to you with? Now what did we say? What does ja'a mean? To come. But when the word ja'a is used with a ba, it means to bring. To come with means to bring. So let's leave the bring, let's just use the word come. So let's go from the beginning again. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. Oh, you believe. In if ja'akum comes to you. Who comes to you? Fasiqun, a sinner. B, what does B mean? With. Binaba'in. Binaba'in. The word naba, in the last juz, in amma, amma yatasa'alun. Now amma yatasa'alun, the name of that chapter is Suratun Naba. Naba means news. But for information, what word are you familiar with?
Nabi.
Huh?
Nabi. Isn't the word Nabi also derived from the word Naba? Because the Nabi is the one that brings news.
You are correct. 100%. So Naba and Nabi, they are related to one another because they mean news. So what does the Nabi do? He brings you news from Allah. About the fact that Allah is your creator, your nourisher, your sustainer. Allah sent you into this world. You stay for a short time and you're going back to Allah, right? And when you return to Allah, it's either paradise or the hellfire. This is information. Okay, so excellent. But what other word, that besides the brother over here, what other word presents information? Khabar. Excellent. So Naba, what did we say Naba means? News, did we say? Okay. So what word are you familiar with? Khabar. Khabar means information. For example, Muhammad. What about Muhammad? Muhammad waqifun. Muhammad is standing. So it's the khabar, it's the information. But now, are these complete synonyms? They mean exactly the same thing? No. A naba is khabar azim. Great news. Like breaking news. An important piece of information. And this information has consequences. So Allah, عَمَّا يَتَسَاءَلُونَ عَنِ النَّبَإِ الْعَظِيمِ. When Allah talks about this information, and He doesn't refer to its khabar as any ordinary information. He says it's a naba, which means important information. What is He talking about? Information about the fact that you're going to return to Allah and about the year after. So Allah uses the word naba'un. So it means the same but a greater significance. So in ja'akum fasikum binaba'in. That is the first jumla.
So that's a shartiyya.
That's jumla shartiyya. So if a person comes to you with important news, what type of person? A fasiq. A fasiq. In other words, you know, in our terms, you receive a WhatsApp message. You receive a WhatsApp message. Now, there's a general, I think, understanding amongst responsible people that, you know, where did you hear? Somebody tells you, did you hear? So no, I didn't. What? They share the information with you. Where did you get it from? On WhatsApp. What is your response? When somebody tells you they receive some piece of information on WhatsApp and say, it must be true because it's on WhatsApp. Is that your response? Or do you normally say, okay, look here, I hear what you're saying, but I'm just a bit skeptical, you know, everything goes on WhatsApp. You follow me? You understand? So Allah is saying, in ja'akum fasikum binaba'in, if a sinner comes to you with important information, what is the jawab? Fatabayyanu. Allah says, and what is the jawabu shart? What is your responsibility? Fatabayyanu. Now, okay, this particular verb now, fa is a word, like just fa is a joining word, then. Tabayyanu. Tabayyana is on the scale of tafa'ala. Is everybody with me? Tabayyana on the scale of tafa'ala. Now, when you have that, and then you do the same thing over here, this might be, I don't know, for you maybe laborious, but I tell you it's very beneficial. Tabayyana. Tabayyana. Right?
But isn't that also a fi'al al-amr?
Hold on, Habibi. You, I must was some silence in the class here because you talk too much. And you ask too much questions. And you jump the gun. And what about us also? You were sitting, Haji? It's Sunday today also, no? Okay, now I'm just joking. No, it's an excellent question and you are right in saying fatabayyanu is a fi'al amr. But before we get there, keep it coming, I'm just joking. No? You must, the questions and... There's no such thing as a silly question. There's only an inappropriate response, right? So all your questions, please ask. Tabayyana is on the scale of tafa'ala. Now what I want you to do here is tafa'ala. I want you to, now tafa'ala, the root letters are fa, ain, lam. So now you draw the lines. The ba will be the fa kalima, the ya will be the ain kalima, and the lam, the noon will be the lam kalima. So the root letters are ba, ya, noon. So bayyinun. Bayyina, which means to be clear, right? So when you put on the scale, like our dear brother pointed out, fatabayyanu is an amr. Allah is telling you, when a sinner comes with important information is, in other words, this information has consequences. What must you do? Fatabayyanu, you must clarify, verify, fatathabbatu, verify. Don't just have a knee-jerk response and accept it as is. Sometimes the information is regarding somebody else, but now what happens is we already made our decision, but you didn't even listen to the other side of the story perhaps. And what is the consequences in terms of the theme of our surah? Community building. So information comes to you, you don't verify the information, you act on that information that has not been verified, right? What's going to happen? Allah talks about it. You're going to regret in terms of the consequences. If only I had to make tathabbut, tabayyun, and hold on and find out what's the right story, I wouldn't have done what I done or what I did. I wouldn't have done what I did, right? Wallahu fatabayyanu, right? So about that, I just want to, and this is something which, is everybody okay with me on this one here over here? I want to rub this off and just ask you a few very important questions, and it starts with us. It appears to me, wallahu a'lam, that our Muslim community simply cannot inoculate ourselves against this. I mean, you're sitting in the class today, it might very well be that this very afternoon, right, some information comes to you and you just fall into a habit and you do what you always do. As opposed to following through what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says. Somehow or the other, on every level, individual level, family level, community level, it's a different, like what do they say? As hetzelfde stuk, different actors. What happened to us? A few years ago, it was the whole issue about MJC on a community level, halal issue. Now, do we verify the information or not? So, after the dust settled, and then we realized, oh, okay, this is what happened, and we understand it. Why didn't we do that in the first instance? Okay, so now supposedly we learned a lesson. Next year come around, it's another debacle, and we do the same thing. And once the dust settles, we say, oh, okay. So why didn't you do that in the first instance? It appears on a community level that we cannot inoculate ourselves against this very basic principle. So in Surah An-Nisa, and Surah An-Nisa relates very well to Surah Al-Hujurat. So Surah Al-Hujurat, the theme is community building. Community building. How do we build communities? And this is also very important, and I speak to the brothers and the sisters, like equally. So I don't know how to speak about this like in an equal and unequal fashion. That's actually what I want to do. I say you should park the right car in the right garage. Put the responsibility, in the right place. Okay. We talk about community building. Communities are made up of what? Families. Right? And Surah An-Nisa, what does Nisa mean? Women. Right? Now when you look at a family, who's the anchor of that family? The mother. In terms of my understanding, that the raising of a family, yes, it's a shared responsibility between mother and father. But in terms of my understanding, Allah knows best, it is more the responsibility that of the mother. So Allah talks about the family. Now what happens in Surah An-Nisa, if you read Surah An-Nisa, Allah talks about the family first. Then Allah talks about wealth management. How does wealth management relate to the family? Can you have a family if you don't have wealth? No, you can't. So wealth management relates to looking after the family. You with me? But now, this family who's managed well in terms of the hierarchy, in order for the family to subsist, the mother is there, yes, but you need an hierarchy. And Allah speaks about that particular hierarchy. That like you have to have a principal in a school, like you have to have a CEO in a company, in the home you also have to have a leader who's responsible. So now Allah talks about the women folk within that family structure. So in that structure you need to have a hierarchy. But in order for that family to subsist, you need wealth. So proper wealth management means that you can run the family properly. But now that family, it exists in what? In a broader community. Now the community you find yourself in at the time of Medina was what? A very eclectic community. So there were Muslims, and within the Muslims, what did you find? You found hypocrites. And then beyond the Muslim community, so look, there's no hypocrites in this ideal Muslim community. But do you have enemies from, not within, but from without? Yes. At the time it was the Jews surrounding or residing in the surrounds of Medina. Okay, so what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala instruct you there? You a community, you a family that you want to protect. So you need to protect the immediate community and the broader community. Right? So what does Allah tell you? Again, He talks about information. And what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say first? وَإِذَا جَاءَهُمْ أَمْرٌ مِّنَ الْأَمْنِ أَوِ الْخَوْفِ أَذَاعُوا بِهِ. So we're talking about Surah An-Nisa, and I want you to relate that to the verse that you're talking about over here. Allah says that when it comes to them, referring to who? The hypocrites and the enemies of Islam. When it comes to them, what comes to them? Information. Now the information, amn awil khawf. Amn means safety. Khawf means of fear. So in other words, it doesn't matter what the nature of the information is, but what's the response to the information? Adha'u bi. What do? They spread it. The modern word for radio is called idha'ah, that which spreads information. So Allah is taking issue with the fact that these hypocrites, whenever information comes to them, the first thing they do is spread the information. Now access to information, particularly when it's information that might compromise the unity of the Muslims, whether it's positive or negative, that access to information should sometimes be a limited thing. We believe that we must be privy to everything. It's an incorrect thing. Ons moet vir almal uitlig. That idea, I don't know where we get that notion from, that you must know everything. Imagine your son must know everything what happens in the bedroom. You'll be shocked, to say the least. You follow me? So this whole idea of access to information is something which must be balanced out. Yes, if it relates to you and your rights and so forth, and then you have, but access to information unrestrictedly. Point being that when they spread it. So Allah is not talking about whether information is true or false, whether it's positive or negative. Allah is saying that the wrong approach to information is that unrestricted spreading of the information. So what do we do in today's time? It's exactly the same. Make no mistake in terms of my understanding that pass as received. You just spreading the information and then you absolve yourself. No, from a Quranic perspective, you are already guilty. The hadith says, كَفَى بِالْمَرْءِ كَذِبًا. It is sufficient to label a person as a liar. A liar is a major sin or minor sin? Major sin. And the Prophet ﷺ, mercy unto mankind, what is he saying? It's sufficient to label a person as a liar. And none of us want to be called a liar. أَيُحَدِّثْ بِكُلِّ مَا يَسْمَعْ. That he relates whatever he hears. It's sufficient to call a person a liar when this person relates whatever he hears. So you tell me A, I related to person B. You tell me another thing, I related to the person. Whatever it is you tell me, I just pass it on. So what does the Prophet ﷺ say? وَلَوْ رَدُّوهُ إِلَى الرَّسُولِ. If they had passed on that information to the messenger, وَإِلَىٰ أُولِي الْأَمْرِ مِنْهُمْ, and those placed in charge of them, لَعَلِمَهُ الَّذِينَ يَسْتَنْبِطُونَ مِنْهُ. Those in the know would have known what to do with that information. Information about the security of our country. Should we be privy to that information? No. The military, the navy, that's their information. They know what to do with the information, what to make of the information to ensure what? The continued stability and security of our country. You and I, what are we going to do with that type of information? We don't know what to do with the information. So, in our societies that we live in, and tell me, are you now surprised at the condition that you and I find ourselves in as a Muslim minority? And can we now see what is the ultimate cause and what compromises? And like I said at the beginning, we're unable to inoculate ourselves against it somehow or the other, because it happens over and over and over. Exactly the same thing happening. Tomorrow something must happen and just hit the front page. Again, we're going to just go and do the same thing what we always do. Wallahu alam. So may Allah give us the understanding, inshallah, and may Allah give us the tawfiq. So very importantly, إن جاءكم فاسق بنبأ فتبينوا. Lest what happens. Right? Now here there's a story, and there's the cause of revelation, which many of the scholars, they just omit and they don't mention. Why? Because it is a weak narration. I think in today's time it has benefit for me to mention it because of the response to it. They say there was allegedly a companion by the name of Walid ibn Uqba, right? So what happened was, the Prophet ﷺ had sent him to outside of Medina to go and collect zakah. And when he came to the tribe, then apparently this tribe refused to pay the zakah, and they had drawn their weapons against him. He came to the Prophet ﷺ and informed him, look, I went to go collect the zakah, they refused to pay, and they drew their weapons against me. Right? They say it refers to that particular person. In Ja'akum Fasikun. What is the challenge with that for us? All the narrations are weak, number one. So if the narration is weak, if a narration comes to us, what is it based on? The chain of transmission. Any chain, it is only as strong as the weakest link. If you have a whole chain that's made of complete iron, but the one is made out of a paper, how strong is that chain? That chain is only as strong as the weakest link. So is that chain going to break or not? It's going to break. So when somebody brings us information, reporting something from the Prophet ﷺ, we look at the chain of transmission. And if all of the people in the chain of transmission are reliable, then we accept that narration to be authentic, otherwise not. So now what happens, all of these narrations, they are weak, number one. Right? So in other words, that story isn't verified. Over and above that, why do we say it cannot be verified? Because Walid ibn Uqba is a companion of the Prophet ﷺ. And we believe that as-sahabatu kulluhum udul, that all of the companions, without exception, they were all people of integrity. Mistakes, yes, they did make. They weren't infallible. But all of the companions, they were people of integrity. So for a companion to be accused of intentionally lying, that's not possible. A mistake he may have made, yes, or she may have made, but lying, no. So therefore the scholars say that this here, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is referring to, would be in general. If somebody comes to you with incorrect information, what must you do? You must verify that information before practicing upon it. Secondly, they say that if you wanted to understand that this relates to Walid ibn Uqba, it wasn't intentional lying, but rather his perception of the situation. Because according to one narration, what happened was, the Prophet ﷺ was supposed to send the zakah collector at an appointed time. That zakah collector didn't come. A few months later, right, when they came, by the time that this person, Walid ibn Uqba, the Prophet decided to send him to come out, the tribe had already decided, look here, since the Prophet didn't come, we're all going to go to Medina and hear from the Prophet, why didn't the zakah collector come? Is there a problem? So when they exited, and the messenger came from Medina, when they saw each other, Walid ibn Uqba misunderstood that, look, they don't want to hand over the zakah, but rather they want to challenge the authority of the Prophet ﷺ. So on that misunderstanding, he went back to inform the Prophet ﷺ. That is plausible. That is understandable. But for us to point a finger at one of the companions, regarding whom what does Allah say about them? Radiyallahu anhum wa radu an. That Allah is pleased with him and they are pleased with Allah. In other words, Allah gives such a glowing, what do they call it, vindication of these people. And it's not our place, yes, mistakes they may have made, but to point a finger and question the integrity of the companions. Therefore, some, when they, like for example, let us see that I consulted, I'm mentioning it just so that we can highlight it, because sometimes we live in an environment, particularly because sometimes when between the Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah and the Shias, there's this whole, problem. So to highlight that, so we can understand, according to the Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, what position the companions hold, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. So just to finish the verse, inshallah, أن تصيبوا قوما بجهالة فتصبحوا على ما فعلتم نادمين. If a wrongdoer comes to you with information, verify the information, list what happens. That there is basically mastariyah. Mastariyah.
Can I say something about
Fadl Habib.
like even the month of Ramadan, if you read it and notice, antusibu, is that a verb?
An is what they refer to as mastariyah.
Because I always find the word sometimes between two verbs. I don't know if I'm correct.
No, 100%. An is an instrument which enters upon a present tense verb. An only comes on a verb. The inna and anna, those are two different things. But that's emphasis. So inna at the beginning of a sentence, anna in the middle of a sentence. But an with a sukoon, it's a clear indication that the word following is a verb. So for us now, we wanted indicators. This car is a Mercedes. Why? Because there's a Mercedes badge. This car, it's a Volkswagen because of the badge, right? This car, it's a Kalahari Ferrari because of the badge, right? Okay. So now, a bid'ah. This is a bid'ah. That's why I like our old clothes. I'm just joking. MashaAllah, it's very good bid'ah. Quarter past, we finish right now, inshallah. So what happens is, I'm just going to translate the last part of the verse. And tusibu, lest asaba yusibu yusabatan means to afflict you. Asaba yusibu yusabatan and tusibu, lest you afflict. Not afflict you, lest you afflict. And tusibu qawman, a people, bijahalatin, ignorantly. And you take somebody to task because of information, but that information is incorrect information. On a lesser scale, what happens is somebody backbites about somebody else to you, right? So what happens is, as a result of that backbiting, you formulate an opinion about that person, right? So the next time you see the person, you keep quiet, but your mind is working. Your chick, you're smiling at me now, like smile met die voorste tanden en kom met die agtertanden. But I know what you're all about, right? But have you ever tried this? Somebody tells you something bad about somebody else, and you go to the person and say, Maaf, I just heard that, this and the other. And many times what happens, the person explains to you, and you understand, oh, okay, I see now. So what did you do? You did receive information. Somebody told you that so-and-so said this about you, that about you, and all of the other things. And then you go to the person, you actually speak to them. Or somebody tells so-and-so did this, that, and the other. When you go to them and they explain to you, you actually understand why they did what they did. So what was that also? Tathabbut. But if you just keep it in the back of your mind, and now what happens is you do something, and then they ask you, why did you do it? But you're the same one who did this, that, and the other. And they tell you, but I didn't do that. What do you mean? Who told you? I mean, yes, I was there, but I didn't do that, and this and the other. And then what happens? فَتُصْبِحُوا عَلَى مَا فَعَلْتُمْ نَادِمِينَ. Lest you afflict a person بِجَهَالَةٍ, ignorantly. فَتُصْبِحُوا, and then you become عَلَى مَا فَعَلْتُمْ, upon that which you did, نَادِمِينَ, you become like, you regret. Okay, so I see in the last part of that, what's the name, you're very lost there, you're looking at me like, look here, what is this? Why did you go like Speedy Gonzales through the last part of the verse? So let's just be responsible and finish that nicely, inshallah. But you must just hang out there with me, because we got like 3 minutes overtime already. So let's just go quickly. فَتُصْبِحُوا, how does it go now? Am I reading the verse right now? فَتَبَيَّنُوا أَن تُصِيبُوا, I'm going to look inside rather. أن تصيبوا, an is an mastariyah, right? You all agree? تصيبوا, أصاب, يصيب, إصابة means to afflict. Lest, an, we're going to translate as lest, an tusibu. Originally it was tusibuna with the noon at the end. But because of the an, the noon falls away. So it becomes an tusibu, lest you afflict. Qawman, what is the meaning of qawm? A people. How do you afflict them? Bijahalatin. Ignorance. Now jahala is an important word for me in Quran, because jahila yajhalu means what? A jahil is an ignorant person, as opposed to an alim. Alim is a person of knowledge. Now I can understand how you understand like that, and that's the challenge sometimes, because the word jahala in Quran, right, it means ignorance, but in many cases, I found in a lot of cases in Quran, the word jahala refers to dhulm. Dhulm. So here, if you say, then you afflict a people bijahalatin, in ignorance. Yes, you can understand ignorance, but if I say bidhulmin, unjustly, does it make more sense? So many times in Quran, the word jahala is used to mean dhulm. Just keep that concept in mind. That jahala doesn't always mean the non-existence of knowledge. Many times jahala means ignorance, right? So it means oppression. فَتُصْبِحُوا, and then what's going to happen? Like Jahiliyyah, for example, period of ignorance, but what was it? It was a period of oppression. Because, they used to infanticide, like bury their baby daughters alive. That guy's a jahil. What does it mean by jahil? Zalim. It's an oppressor. So jahala many times means dhulm. And then, so what happens? فَتُصْبِحُوا. And in terms of outcome, what will happen? You now practice on the wrong information, so what will happen? فَتُصْبِحُوا, then you become. فَتُصْبِحُوا, you become. عَلَى, upon, مَا, that which, فَعَلْتُمْ, that which you did. What do you become? نَادِمِينَ, you regret. Now you regret. But what would you could have saved yourself, the ignominy, and you can save yourself face, like we say, if you first verify the information. And really, my personal experience many times, and it takes, you see, it's very, when information, particularly like for example in the backbiting sphere of things, when you hear somebody say something about you, to approach that person, it's easy for you to formulate an opinion about the person, a negative opinion, and based on it go forward. But it takes really some sort of courage for you to go, because look here, when you go to a person, it means that, look here, I'm not wanting to get at you, I just want to verify, because we have a good relationship. I mean, you're my brother, you're my sister, and but now this person is telling me something that you said maybe about me or whatever maybe you did. Let me verify that. So your niyyah is really what? I want to keep things together, build the community, right? And then you take it from there, then inshallah will be a lot of khair. Fadal. Yeah, you have to use your discretion. You have to use it. And sometimes you're even going to tell yourself, look here, man, whatever I'm going to say is almost like basically adding fuel to the fire. So sometimes you're even going to tell yourself, look here, even if I'm going to broach this, we have such a it's best for me to ignore it and not entertain that information, make it like it didn't happen. So you have to be very mature and responsible about it. But in this instance, wallahi, it comes back to your niyyah and your intention and purity of heart. Because Allah looks at that. sometimes you don't know how to deal with something, but because of purity of heart, Allah resolves the whole issue for you. وَكَفَى اللَّهُ مِنَّ الْقِتَالِ. Allah suffices you. You don't have to take up your weapons to fight. Allah suffices you in doing that. But that will only happen if you have a strong and a good niyyah, and it comes from a good place. So, but practically speaking, you have to use your discretion. Sometimes discretion is, Masa, you heard it now, 10 o'clock, 12 o'clock, you're knocking on the door, So sometimes the timing also. Let me wait for an opportunity, this, that, and the other. So, to be patient also. So you must use your discretion in this particular regard, right? Sometimes you need to ask somebody maaf, but if I'm going to tell him what I did, and I'm asking maaf for that, it's going to be worse. So you just buy the person a gift. You start talking good behind the person's back, like that type of thing, man. Because you did something wrong, and if you're going to highlight the wrong, that's going to be the last straw, and they don't want to see you again. So what do? Speak good about the person, buy gifts, and that type of thing. And we're talking about that now. It's like we're preempting something. Allah's talking about information here. Further on, and lo and behold, I'm sure you're not surprised, Allah, in terms of community building, is going to talk about ghiba later on. And how ghiba, a big part of the surah is dedicated to ghiba, and how it compromises our unity as Muslims. So, for me, every family should be, they say you must read Surah 2 An-Nur, because it talks about the family dynamics. Every community, like we read Surah Yasin and so forth, every community must read Surah Hujurat, all of us. Because we need to learn the lessons that are contained herein, so that we can, conduct ourselves in a particular manner. Wallahu a'lam. Fadal.
In the beginning of the verse, when it says that if a sinner comes to you with information, should we interpret that as any information we get, or how do we differentiate or know the person is a sinner when it comes?
I think the focus of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is so the question is, like, if a sinner comes to you, how do we know the person is a sinner, if I understand? And then what should you focus on? My understanding of the verse is that when Allah says the person carrying the information is a sinner, which means Allah is referring to the information that he's carrying. So the important thing is not really to focus, because you don't know whether this person is a salih or a fasik. So what you do is, the person brings you information. Verify the information. And if the information is verified, and then you can act upon the information, no problem. But you must first verify the information. Wallahu a'lam. Jazakumullahu khairan. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.